13 living fences that grow faster than bamboo. Evergreen garden. What if I told you that the most powerful privacy screens you could build on your property are not made of lumber, vinyl, or concrete? They are alive, they breathe, they grow. Most people do not know this, but while homeowners are spending thousands of dollars on fences that rot, warp, and eventually fall apart, there are plants out there that will give you a complete privacy wall in a single season. Plants that create habitat, clean the air, hold the soil, and get stronger every year instead of weaker. And today I am going to show you 13 of them that will completely change the way you think about boundaries, privacy, and your land forever. Stick around because number 6 on this list was used by American pioneers to fence millions of acres before barbed wire ever existed, so impenetrable that nothing can push through it. Not cattle, not deer, not anything. And number 13 grows over 10 feet tall in a single season, right in your backyard, and never spreads out of control the way bamboo does. If you want to grow smarter and live more independently, hit that subscribe button right now. Evergreen Garden posts new videos every single week packed with practical growing knowledge you will not find anywhere else. All right, let us get into it. Here are 13 living fences that grow faster than bamboo, ranked from extraordinary to absolutely life-changing. 1. Thuja Green Giant, the wall that grows itself. Let us start here. Not just because Thuja Green Giant is one of the most widely planted living fence trees in North America, but because it earns that reputation in a way most plants never do. This is the tree that landscape professionals reach for first when a client needs fast, dense, evergreen privacy, and the numbers back them up completely. Thuja Green Giant, a hybrid of western red cedar and Japanese arborvitae, grows 3 to 5 feet per year under good conditions. Plant a 10-gallon specimen today, and within 3 years you could be looking at a wall of dense, rich green foliage that blocks wind, noise, and sight lines from every direction. It reaches heights of 40 to 60 feet at full maturity, but most people keep it trimmed to exactly the height they want. Here is what makes it remarkable from a landscape science perspective. The dense, overlapping, scale-like foliage creates what researchers call a buffer zone, a physical and acoustic barrier that reduces noise pollution by 6 to 8 decibels and cuts wind speed by up to 50% on the protected side. Studies on living windbreaks document improvements in crop yields, reduced heating costs, and reduced soil erosion for properties that use dense evergreen screens like Green Giant. The real advantage is that it is nearly bulletproof as a plant. It is resistant to deer browsing, spider mites, and bagworm, which are the 3 main problems that plague other arborvitae varieties. It tolerates clay soil, drought once established, and a wide range of pH levels. This is not a finicky plant. It is a workhorse. Traditional planting approach. Place them 5 to 6 feet apart for a tight privacy screen, 8 feet apart if you want them to eventually touch without overcrowding. Water deeply in the first season, and after that, they largely take care of themselves. Think of it as the green wall your property has always needed, the one that keeps growing taller and denser with every passing year while your neighbor's wooden fence slowly leans and grays. 2. Hybrid willow, the fastest living fence on Earth. If speed is the priority, genuine, measurable, jaw-dropping speed, then hybrid willow deserves to be near the top of every living fence conversation that has ever happened. Salix hybrid varieties have been documented growing 6 to 10 feet in a single growing season under good conditions. That is not a typo. 6 to 10 feet in 1 year. For context, most bamboo varieties marketed as fast growers produce 3 to 5 feet per year for clumping types. Hybrid willow leaves that number far behind. And here is what most people never realize. Willows can be planted as bare, dormant stakes, simple cuttings pushed into moist soil in early spring, and they will root and begin growing within weeks. The startup cost is almost nothing. Willows have been used as living fences in Europe for centuries through a technique called pleaching, weaving young, flexible branches together as they grow to create a living lattice wall. As the branches touch and grow against each other, they naturally graft themselves together, creating a solid interlocked barrier that becomes stronger every single year. Here is what the science confirms. Willows have an extraordinary ability to stabilize soil through their massive, fast-spreading root systems. Studies in erosion control consistently rank willows among the top performers for riverbank and slope stabilization. That same aggressive rooting means they establish fast and hold the ground tenaciously. One important note, plant hybrid willows away from underground utilities, septic systems, and water lines. Their roots seek moisture aggressively, and they will find pipes if given the opportunity. Traditional use: plant stakes 1 to 2 feet apart in a single or double row. Water through the first season, weave young shoots together as they grow, and step back. Nature handles the rest. Think of it as the living fence that practically builds itself overnight, the one that will outpace anything bamboo can produce and look beautiful every step of the way. 3. Hybrid poplar, the powerhouse windbreak. Hybrid poplar is the plant that landscape engineers reach for when they need to establish a windbreak fast, and they need it to actually work. Populous hybrid varieties routinely grow 5 to 8 feet per year, putting them in genuine competition with the fastest plants on Earth for sheer vertical growth rate. This is not a new discovery. Farmers in the Great Plains used hybrid poplar windbreaks for generations because they understood something simple: a living windbreak that reduces wind speed, protects crops, reduces soil moisture loss, and cuts heating costs for farmhouses. Research from the USDA Agroforestry Research Unit confirms that properly designed living windbreaks can reduce heating fuel costs by 10 to 25% for the buildings they protect. But hybrid poplar is not just for farmers. For any homeowner who wants to establish a fast-growing privacy screen or wind buffer on a larger lot, a row of hybrid poplars is one of the smartest investments you can make. They are inexpensive as bare-root seedlings, easy to plant, and they get to work immediately. Here is what makes them especially useful. They grow as a matched system where multiple trees planted from the same genetic stock grow at a synchronized rate. You get a uniform, consistent screen instead of the patchy, uneven look you get with seedling trees grown from seed. They also respond well to coppicing, cutting to the base periodically, which rejuvenates them and extends their productive life considerably. Traditional approach: plant bare-root seedlings in spring, 8 to 12 feet apart for a windbreak, 5 to 6 feet apart for a tight privacy screen. Stake in the first year, water through the first summer, and watch them take off. Think of it as the living wall that gets to work in year 1 and keeps building momentum year after year, the green infrastructure your property has been quietly waiting for. 4. Leyland cypress, the classic privacy machine. Leyland cypress started the living fence conversation for most homeowners in the 20th century, and it earned that position entirely on its own merits. A hybrid of Monterey cypress and Nootka cypress, Cupressocypris leylandii, grows 3 to 4 feet per year and develops into a dense, feathery column of blue-green foliage that is genuinely striking from any distance. What made Leyland cypress famous was the combination of speed and density. There are very few other evergreen trees that grow as fast while still producing the kind of tight, layered foliage that actually blocks sightlines completely. The branching pattern is so intricate and overlapping that even in winter, a mature Leyland cypress screen is completely opaque. You cannot see through it at any time of year. Modern horticultural research has documented Leyland cypress as an effective noise and pollution buffer in urban and suburban settings. Studies in the United Kingdom, where Leyland cypress hedges have been planted extensively since the 1960s, show significant reductions in particulate matter on the protected side of mature hedges. This plant is not just a privacy screen, it is an active air filter working quietly on your behalf. One practical note: Leyland cypress can develop canker diseases in wet climates, and they can grow enormous if left unmanaged. Regular trimming keeps them healthy and at the height you want. Trim annually from year 2 onward and they will reward you with decades of reliable, dense service. Traditional planting: 5 feet apart for a tight screen, 7 feet apart for a more relaxed hedge that you will still trim periodically. The closer together you plant initially, the faster you get full privacy. Think of it as the evergreen curtain that rises fast, stays lush through every season, and has been defining the look of private gardens for longer than most of us have been gardening. 5. Privet, the forgotten hedge champion. Privet got a bad reputation because almost nobody talks about the right varieties, and almost everyone ignores the extraordinary things this plant can do when used properly. Ligustrum species grow 2 to 3 feet per year, produce dense, small-leaved foliage that responds beautifully to shearing, and can be maintained at virtually any height from 3 feet to 15 feet with regular trimming. Here is what most people miss entirely. Privet was the backbone of formal European hedge garden design for centuries. The great garden estates of England, France, and the Netherlands used privet as the workhorse hedge, the plant that defined pathways, created outdoor rooms, and established the structured enclosure that made those gardens legendary. The plant is extraordinarily forgiving of hard pruning. You can cut it back severely, and it will regenerate vigorously from the base every time. Modern landscape research on privet confirms what gardeners have known for centuries. The dense branching habit of ligustrum species creates excellent wildlife corridors and nesting habitat. Songbirds favor dense privet hedges for nesting because the tight branching structure provides predator protection. The small white flowers, when allowed to bloom, attract a remarkable diversity of pollinators. Studies document dozens of bee and butterfly species visiting privet in full bloom. A note on invasiveness. Some privet species, particularly Ligustrum sinense and Ligustrum japonicum, are considered invasive in parts of the southern United States. In those regions, look for sterile or non-invasive cultivars and choose varieties appropriate for your specific area. Traditional use. Plant 18 inches to 2 feet apart for a tight formal hedge, 2 to 3 feet apart for a relaxed natural screen. Shear 2 to 3 times per growing season for the crispest look. Think of it as the sculptable green wall that has been shaping gardens into living architecture for 500 years and shows absolutely no sign of stopping. 6. Osage orange, the pioneer's perfect fence. This is the one I teased at the beginning, and the history behind it is remarkable enough that most people find it hard to believe. Maclura pomifera, the Osage orange or hedge apple tree, was used by American farmers in the mid-1800s to fence millions of acres of prairie before barbed wire ever existed. There is a reason it was described at the time as horse-high, bull-strong, and hog-tight. Nothing gets through a mature Osage orange hedge. Nothing. Native to a small region of Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Texas, Osage orange was promoted aggressively by the United States government in the 1840s as the solution to the fencing problem on the treeless prairies. At one point, millions of miles of Osage orange hedgerows lined American farms. Then barbed wire arrived in the 1870s, and most of those hedges were abandoned. But the ones that remain are still standing, some of them over 150 years old, and still completely impassable. Here is the science behind why it works so well. The wood of Osage orange is extraordinarily rot-resistant, ranked by researchers as one of the most durable North American woods in ground contact. The thorns are stiff, sharp, and regularly spaced in a way that discourages passage by any animal. And the root system is so extensive that established hedgerows actively prevent soil erosion while improving soil structure over decades. Modern agroforestry research continues to study Osage orange as a silvopasture component, a living fence that integrates directly with pasture land rather than requiring separate fencing materials at all. Traditional planting. Seeds or seedlings planted 18 to 24 inches apart in a single row. Plants are trained and trimmed as they grow. Within 5 to 7 years, you have a fence that will outlast any structure you could build from any material. Think of it as the fence that built America, the one that held the frontier together before anyone thought to twist wire into barbs. 7. Elderberry, the edible living wall. Most people look at elderberry as a supplement or a pie ingredient. What they are completely missing is that elderberry is also one of the most productive, fastest establishing living fence plants you can grow. Sambucus nigra and its North American relative Sambucus canadensis can grow 6 to 12 feet in a single growing season from bare root stock, making them genuinely faster than most bamboo varieties by any reasonable measure. Elderberry has been used as a boundary plant in European and Native American agricultural traditions for centuries. It marks property lines, shelters, gardens from wind, creates wildlife corridors, and feeds the land it grows on because the flowers and berries attract and nourish an extraordinary number of beneficial insects, birds, and small mammals. Studies on hedgerow systems consistently rank elderberry among the top 5 most wildlife-valuable hedgerow species in temperate climates worldwide. Here is what makes elderberry exceptional from a horticultural standpoint. It coppices aggressively, meaning you can cut it to the ground every few years and it will regenerate from the roots with even more vigor than before. This makes it essentially impossible to kill through ordinary pruning, and it means you can manage height and density easily over an entire lifetime of growing. The berries are a serious bonus. Properly prepared elderberries have been studied extensively for their anthocyanin content and immunomodulating properties. You are not just growing a fence. You are growing a food source, a medicine cabinet, and a habitat corridor that happens to also give you complete privacy. Note: raw elderberries and other parts of the plant should not be consumed in quantity without proper preparation. Cooking or tincturing is important before use. Traditional planting, 3 to 4 feet apart in a row. Cut back hard after the first season to encourage bushy, dense growth, and let nature take over from there. Think of it as the fence that gives back every single season, producing food and habitat while doing the work of a solid wall without ever asking for anything in return. 8. Rosa rugosa, the thorny beautiful wall. Rosa rugosa is the rose that other roses wish they could be. This is not the fussy hybrid tea rose that demands constant attention, spraying, and coddling. Rosa rugosa is a tough, thorny, salt-tolerant, disease-resistant shrub rose that has been used as a coastal and boundary hedge across northern Europe and coastal North America for centuries. It grows 2 to 3 feet per year and develops into an impenetrable thicket of arching canes armed with serious thorns that no human or large animal wants to push through. Here is what makes Rosa rugosa remarkable from a landscape and ecological perspective. It blooms prolifically from late spring through fall, producing fragrant single flowers in deep pink, white, or red, depending on the variety. After the flowers come the hips, large red fruits that are among the highest known plant sources of vitamin C in the natural world, containing up to 20 times more vitamin C per gram than oranges. Research on hedgerow roses consistently documents their value as pollinator habitat. The open, single-petaled flowers of Rosa rugosa are highly accessible to bees, including native bumblebees and solitary bees that cannot access the layered petals of modern hybrid varieties. Studies in Scandinavia, where rugosa roses are extensively used in landscape plantings, show significant native bee diversity in areas with established rugosa hedgerows. The thorny architecture also makes Rosa rugosa one of the most effective anti-intrusion plantings available. Birds love it for exactly this reason and nest in the protected interior of the dense canes in impressive numbers. Traditional planting: 3 feet apart for a solid hedge, 5 feet apart for a more relaxed and wildlife-friendly screen. Minimal pruning is required after establishment. Think of it as the fence that blooms every morning, armored with thorns and loaded with fruit that heals, all without a single board, post, or nail. 9. Forsythia, the golden curtain. Forsythia is the plant that tells you spring has returned before anything else in the garden is awake. And for a living fence that wants to make a statement while providing genuine seasonal screening, Forsythia belongs in a category of its own. Forsythia X intermedia and related varieties grow 3 to 4 feet per year and produce cascading, arching canes that quickly build into a dense, layered screen 6 to 10 feet tall. Forsythia has been used as a hedging plant across Europe and East Asia for generations. The original species comes from China and Korea, where it has been cultivated in garden landscapes for over a century. The ability to force Forsythia branches to bloom indoors in late winter by cutting them and placing them in water was a traditional practice in Korean and Chinese households that signaled the coming of warmth and the growing season. Ahead. Here is the ecological story that most gardeners miss entirely. While Forsythia is not native to North America, established Forsythia hedges provide critical early-season nesting structure for birds before native plants have leafed out. The dense branching creates protected nest sites used by robins, mockingbirds, song sparrows, and catbirds. Studies on urban bird diversity consistently show higher nesting success in gardens with established dense shrub hedgerows. The one condition Forsythia needs to perform well as a living fence is sunlight. It blooms best and grows densest in full sun. In shade, it grows lanky and produces fewer flowers. Plant it where it gets at least 6 hours of direct sunlight per day, and it will reward you every spring with a display that stops traffic. Traditional use: plant 3 feet apart, allow to grow naturally for the first few years, then shape after bloom each spring. Never prune in fall, or you remove the following year's flower buds entirely. Think of it as the fence that lights up gold every spring to announce that the growing season has returned and then settles into a solid green wall for the rest of the year. 10. Hawthorn, the living wall of centuries. Hawthorn hedgerows have been defining the English countryside for over 1,000 years. Crataegus monogyna and Crataegus laevigata were the plants that enclosed common fields after the Enclosure Acts, marked parish boundaries, sheltered livestock from wind, and defined the iconic patchwork landscape of rural Britain, and they are still standing. Some of those hedgerows are estimated to be 400 to 800 years old and still functioning as living fences. Hawthorn grows 2 to 4 feet per year and develops into an extraordinarily dense, thorny structure that is genuinely impenetrable once established. The thorns are long, stiff, and pointed, The branching is tight and interlocking, properly laid using the traditional technique of partially cutting stems and weaving them horizontally. A hawthorn hedge creates a living barrier that nothing short of a chainsaw will breach. Modern ecological research on hawthorn hedgerows has documented their extraordinary biodiversity value. A single established hawthorn hedge can support over 300 species of insects, dozens of bird species using it for nesting and foraging, small mammals, and an array of wildlife that depends on the structural complexity of mature hedgerow systems. Hawthorn is also a documented host plant for the larvae of numerous butterfly and moth species native to temperate regions. The berries, called haws, have a long history in traditional herbal medicine as a cardiovascular tonic. Modern research has investigated hawthorn extracts for their flavonoid content and potential benefits for heart function. While the evidence continues to develop, hawthorn has been used in European herbal medicine for centuries, specifically for this purpose. Traditional planting, 12 to 18 inches apart in a double staggered row for maximum density. Hard prune in the first few years to force low, bushy growth, then maintain annually. Think of it as the living wall that was already here before your country was a country and will still be here long after every wooden fence on your street has rotted away. 11. Photinia red robin, the year-round fire screen. Photinia X Fresheri, sold widely under the name Red Robin, is one of the most visually striking living fence plants available anywhere, and it grows fast enough to belong on this list without any hesitation. New growth emerges brilliant fire red, creating a display that people genuinely stop to look at. As the leaves mature, they turn glossy dark green, providing a rich backdrop that makes the new red growth even more vivid when the next flush arrives. The cycle repeats every time the plant pushes new growth, which is multiple times per growing season. Growth rates run 2 to 3 feet per year, and Photinia responds exceptionally well to regular trimming, which actually encourages more frequent flushes of new red growth. The more you trim it, the more red you get. Most living fence plants become less attractive with heavy pruning. Photinia becomes more attractive. Research on Photinia in urban landscape context documents its effectiveness as a particulate matter filter. The glossy, slightly sticky surface of Photinia leaves traps, dust, and fine particles from the air, making it a documented air quality improving plant in environments where traffic pollution is a concern. Studies in European urban greening programs specifically cite Photinia among the top-performing hedging species for pollution mitigation in residential and commercial settings. One practical note, Photinia can be susceptible to a leaf spot fungus in very wet climates or when leaves stay consistently moist. The solution is simple. Plant in a location with good air circulation, avoid overhead watering, and trim after wet periods to allow the canopy to open up and dry between rain events. Traditional planting, 2 to 3 feet apart for a tight formal hedge, 4 feet apart for a larger informal screen, trim 2 to 3 times per year for maximum red foliage display throughout the season. Think of it as the fence that burns red at the tips all season long, giving you privacy and a piece of living art in the same plant at the same time. 12. Giant miscanthus, the grass that rivals bamboo. Here is the plant that genuinely challenges bamboo on its own terms without any of bamboo's most serious problems. Giant miscanthus, Miscanthus X giganteus, grows 10 to 12 feet tall in a single growing season. From bare rhizome divisions planted in spring, you can have a visual screen over 10 feet tall by the first fall. That is not slow by any standard. What makes giant miscanthus so compelling as a bamboo alternative is the list of things it does not do. It does not run. It does not send underground rhizomes spreading into your neighbor's lawn or into cracks in your foundation. It clumps. It expands slowly and predictably from the center. You control it completely. And when you have decided you want it gone from a particular location, you can remove it. Try removing established running bamboo from a property, and you will understand immediately why that difference matters. Research on giant miscanthus has been extensive because it is being evaluated seriously as a bioenergy crop. Studies from the University of Illinois and multiple European research institutions document remarkable biomass productivity, sometimes exceeding 30 tons of dry matter per acre per year. The root system, which can reach 10 to 12 feet deep, stores exceptional quantities of carbon and dramatically improves soil structure. Some researchers have documented this plant improving compacted and degraded soils into productive agricultural land within 5 to 7 years of establishment. The plumes that appear in late summer are genuinely beautiful, silvery and feathery, catching the light in a way that makes the planting look intentional and designed rather than purely utilitarian. Traditional use: plant rhizomes 2 to 3 feet apart for a screen that fills in within 2 seasons. Cut to the ground in late winter each year before new growth begins. Think of it as the answer to bamboo that gives you everything you ever wanted from bamboo: the height, the speed, the dramatic presence, and absolutely none of what you did not want. 13. Arrowwood viburnum, the native wildlife fence. And here we are at number 13, the one I saved for last because it represents a completely different philosophy of living fence design, one that I believe deserves far more attention than it has ever received. Viburnum dentatum, the arrowwood viburnum, is a native North American shrub that has been used by indigenous peoples for generations. The straight, flexible stems were historically used for arrow shafts, which is exactly where the name comes from. It grows 3 to 5 feet per year into a dense, multi-stemmed screen that provides four-season interest and extraordinary ecological value that few other plants on this list can match. Here is what makes arrowwood viburnum exceptional. From an ecological science standpoint, it is a documented keystone plant in eastern North American woodland edge systems. The white flower clusters in spring attract over 100 species of native bees and other pollinators. The dark blue berries in late summer and fall are consumed by over 35 species of migratory birds, including thrushes, waxwings, robins, and numerous warblers. The dense multi-stem structure provides critical nesting and overwintering habitat for birds and beneficial insects alike throughout the year. Research from entomologists studying native plant support for biodiversity consistently ranks viburnum species among the top native shrubs for supporting complex food webs in residential and agricultural landscapes. Every arrowwood viburnum you plant is actively supporting the ecological network of your entire region in a measurable and documented way. From a horticultural standpoint, arrowwood viburnum is also impressively low maintenance. It tolerates wet soils and periodic flooding, handles part shade gracefully, and rarely requires any pest or disease intervention whatsoever. Once established, you can largely leave it alone, and it rewards you with increasing ecological value every single year. Traditional planting: 3 to 4 feet apart for a solid screen, 5 to 6 feet apart for a naturalized wildlife hedgerow. Allow to grow with minimal pruning for maximum berry production and bird value. Think of it as the fence that does not just mark a boundary but feeds an entire ecosystem, the living wall that gives back to the land far more than it ever takes. 13 plants, every one of them faster than bamboo, every one of them producing a living screen that gets stronger, denser, and more valuable with every single year that passes. Here is what I want you to take away from all of this. The people who planted living fences before us were not doing it because they could not afford boards. They were doing it because they understood something we have nearly forgotten. A living fence is not a construction project. It is a relationship with the land. It grows with you. It feeds wildlife while it meets your need for privacy. It cleans the air while it blocks the wind. It improves your soil while it defines your boundaries. Every wooden fence on your street has an expiration date. Every living fence on this list does the opposite. It gets better as it gets older. And the most important thing I can tell you before you go: match the plant to your conditions. If you are in a wet climate, a willow or elderberry will outperform any fast-growing evergreen tree. If you want year-round privacy in a cold climate, Thuja Green Giant or Leyland cypress is your answer. If you want ecological value alongside your privacy screen, hawthorn and arrowwood viburnum are the plants that will make your property a genuine refuge for wildlife. And if you want the pure bamboo beating speed of something completely non-invasive, giant miscanthus is ready and waiting for you. The knowledge is yours now. The only thing left is to get your hands in the soil and plant. If this video helped you see your property differently, smash that like button. It helps more people find this channel and discover these incredible plants. Drop a comment below and tell me which living fence you are planning to grow. Are you Team Fast Evergreen, Team Edible Hedgerow, or Team Native Wildlife Fence? I read every single comment and I love hearing what you are growing. And if you have not subscribed to Evergreen Garden yet, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss a video. We post every single week and we are just getting started.